Hi everybody, welcome to another CXC CSEC Geography Made Simple exercise. Alright, so today we talk about population, right? And this is something that we learn in from as far as primary school. Population definition. Population is the average number of individuals that is found, or should I say organisms. Yeah, organisms sound best because you can have population of birds, population of dog, population of cats, population of rats. So here we're talking about population as in human population. All right, but the broad definition would suggest a group of individuals found within a specific geographical location. Alright, so you have population there. Okay, so in looking at population, we look at factors influencing population. We look at urbanization, urban migration. We look at birth rate, death rate, and a whole other host of things. Today, I'm going to try and see if I can complete everything set out within a few minutes. Well, you know, my few minutes are usually a little bit long, but we'll see how we get from there. Alright, so here we talk about population, just giving you the definition for population, and we're going to first look at the factors which actually influence population. Now, for CSEC purposes, we're going to only be looking at three factors. However, if you should continue, let's say you're going to be going in demography, or you're going into population studies, you would add on a few more. So I'm going to be listing three main ones for CXC and two others in which probably you can browse over in your own timing. All right, so here you have birth rate. Now birth rate suggests the average number of births per 1,000 population per annum, right? You have what you call crude birth rate and birth rate. One is calculated every 6 months, while one is calculated every 12 months. Okay, let's not get into the whole idea of which one of them, crude or birth rate, which one of them get into, which one of them actually calculated 6 months or 12 months, because it's neither here nor there for CXC. That's for CAPE and demographic studies. Okay, so here we have birth rate. How do we calculate birth rate? We calculate birth rate by simply having the total amount of births times 1,000 divided by the total amount of persons within the given population. That way you can find the average birth rate per 1,000 population per annum. Okay, so let's move on. So we are going into what you call death rate. Death rate, as you know, death, birth, it's a balance, right? So death rate refers to the average number of death per 1,000 population per annum. And as I said before, with the crude birth rate, you also have crude death rate and death rate. Two different scenarios really suggesting the same thing. It's just that the time span in which they are actually calculated are different. Okay, so if a population has, let's say, 1,000 births within a given year, and have, let's say, 500 deaths within a given year, the average growth of the population will be referred to as natural increase, wherein which the average number of births exceeds the average number of deaths. Now, should in case the average number of deaths outnumbers the average number of births, you would refer to this as natural increase. Okay, let's move on. So let's look at another factor which contributes to the increase or decrease, or the allows population to stay practically optimum, and we'll get to that term shortly. All right, so here we go. Now we are looking at migration. Now we have what you call migration in and migration out. In other words, we have in migration and out migration. Okay, so in migration refers to persons moving within different geographical location. right? And out migration refers to persons moving outside to reside elsewhere within a different geographical location. Okay, so you have different types of migration. We have in migration and out migration, but you have different categories of that what do you call it, migration, right? We have intermigration. We have intermigration meaning the same thing as domestic migration, wherein it you are actually migrating within the same country but beyond geographical boundaries. So let's say that you live in Kingston, Jamaica, and you will be moving for several different reasons to, let's say, St. James, Montego Bay, to be exact, to reside. Let's say you just get married, right? And you bought a house and you're gonna be living there permanently. This is referred to as domestic migration. So you're actually moving from one geographical location within the same country to another geographical location within the same country. This is referred to as intermigration or domestic migration. All right, so let's move on. So you have a different category of migration by the term what you call regional migration. What is regional migration? Well, regional migration refers to the movement of persons within the regional boundaries. Okay, so what's a region? So you have several regions throughout the world. We have the Caribbean region, the North American region, the South American region, the African region. A region is practically a group of, or should I say, a group of countries that have commonality, something in common. For example, Caribbean countries have one thing in common, and that is, well, you could say they have one thing in common, right? And that is that they are washed, their shores are washed by the Caribbean Sea. So therefore, persons within this region are referred to as Caribbean people. North Americans are Canadians and United States citizens, right? So from any one of these two countries, you're regarded from the North American region. So therefore, if you're living in, let's say, Canada, and you are going to be migrating to the United States of America for, let's say, employment, right? You can say that you are practically engaging in regional migration, right? Okay, cool. So here we have intermigration, same thing as domestic migration, and we have regional migration, and I'll explain all that to you. Okay, so let's move on to international migration. Now, international migration, this is movement of individuals from one particular region into another. For example, my parents lives in the United States, and they decide that they want me to come and live with them, so they do the necessary paperwork. So I'll be moving from the Caribbean to the North American region. That is a clear example of that's a clear example of international migration. All right, so let's move on. We have understood clearly now what is meant by international migration, regional migration, and domestic or intermigration. So let's continue by looking at what is meant by immigration and emigration. Now let's say that I am going over into the United States of America to live. Alright, so the United States of America would refer to me as an immigrant. That is IMMIGRANT. Okay, so my country immigration department would refer to me as an immigrant, where it is IMMIGRANT. For a moment there, I got mixed up. I was about to spell immigration. Both of them sound different to some, but to some they sound similar. Right? Never get confused with both terminology because they mean or they refer to something in different contexts. Alright, so before we continue with population, we need to get over certain terms. So let's move on with certain specific terms that will probably come back in, or should I say, that we probably mention in another lesson or in another, should I say, video. Okay, so let us look at what is meant by population pyramid. Now, a population pyramid is a pictorial representation of the structure of population, right, for an area. So let's say that you are looking at Jamaica, right? I'm from Jamaica. So let's say that you are looking at Jamaican population structure. Enjoying this, I would actually have all the males on the right and the females on the left, right? Oh, is that right? Okay, yes, it's right. Males on the right, females on the left. Okay, so here you have the population pyramid, and in the center you have the different age grade ranges. Usually this is between 10 year span. Okay, so you have 0, yes, 0 to 10, 11 to 20, going up the line, and when you reach probably about 70, you refer to that as 70 odd plus, or you refer to it as 70 plus. Okay, now the representation that is made on the population pyramid actually indicates by age group the average number of individuals that can be found. For example, on a population pyramid, as you're seeing now, right, you will have the bars going towards that direction. Okay, right, and you will have the female bars going to that direction. Okay, and you'll notice that between roughly 0 to 10 and roughly about 0 to 8, roughly between, and you notice that between 0 to 10 and up to about age 20, you have the largest body of individual within the population. Okay, this is referred to as the dependents. Okay, usually the dependents are those individuals who are unable to take care of themselves, such as the elderly, the disabled, and the young, the baby, children. Okay, so in between the elderly and, let's say, the children, age 18, you have what you call the labor force. And you have some persons within the labor force that for some reason they are unable to work because they have either disability or they're just unable to locate work. However, that's a different story. I'll get back to that soon. This group of persons is referred to as the labor force. Okay, so the labor force is a little confusing in construct as to how you interpret this. Now, if you have reached, let's say, age 21, that means you're no longer a child. And that means that you should be a part of the labor force. But the labor force, according to that definition, demographers, the labor force is referred to as that group of persons who are capable of working and are seeking employment. Thus, if you are, let's say, part of a population and you are over the age of 21, considered an adult, and you are not seeking employment, you are not considered a part of the labor force. You are sadly considered a part of the dependents. So the boys on the corner asking for spare change are just doing stuff that makes them feel happy other than working. They are dependents. Okay, so why are the elderly referred to as dependents? You see, the elderly are referred to as dependents because they depend on the labor force, the working class, to actually assist in their health, in their activities, in whatever they might choose to do from retirement up until they actually expire. Of course, that means death. All right, so we have actually explained uh, population, population pyramid, death rate, birth rate, natural increase, migration, in migration, out migration, immigrant, and we have also looked at the labor force, right? Okay, let's continue. This video is a little bit long, but I know that you will enjoy it. Based on the content, I expect that you should, hit that subscribe button and you will return. Okay, so let's continue. Now, population structure, or should I say population within a given area, are all influenced by several factors. People reside different places for different reasons. But before I get into that discussion, let us look at some other defining terms that would be considered necessary for you to clearly understand where I'm going at. Alright, so let us look at rural and urban. Okay, rural refer to that space that exists outside the suburban or the urban towns or cities. Okay, so you might ask, so what does this area comprise of? This area is normally used for farming, agriculture, and property is usually a little bit larger than that within urban spaces. Rural spaces also enjoy natural vegetation, and the spaces are usually larger, and you tend to uh, do less commerce within the rural spaces. Okay, so what are the suburban spaces? The suburban spaces are that space that lies in between the city and the rural spaces. You see, before you actually reach the rural spaces, you have to go through this series of towns or communities that is like a buffer. Now, the significance of suburban spaces is that suburban spaces are used by individuals as mere residential outlay, in the sense that persons normally just live there and then now they will go to the city and work and return. Right? Okay, so let's look at what is meant by cities, or better yet, let's look at what is meant by urban spaces. Now, urban space is that space that controls the most of the business for, let's say, the population. For example, the most outstanding, as a prominent, yeah, prominent uh, urban space in Jamaica is Kingston and St. Andrew. And it's not really all of St. Andrew, but a part of St. Andrew, because they are what you call rural St. Andrew. But I'm talking about Kingston itself, right? Now, at this space, you can find, let's say, the ministries of government, such as water, such as transport, housing, such as labor, education, finance. All these ministries are located there. Also, in the cities are located the head offices for several banks, business, even manufacturing companies. So, although manufacturing companies may have outlets in the rural spaces because of the space that is needed to actually perform the manufacturing activities, they usually have what you call offices within these spaces. Urban spaces are normally a little bit cramped for space. The population density, which is again another term that we need to understand, which is the average number of individual that actually fits in, or you can find within a square meter or square yard or kilometer. So it's the average number of persons within a space, right? That's referred to as population density. Population density of urban spaces normally exceeds that of rural space. Remember, I had said that rural areas tend to have a little bit more space than the urban space. Okay, so let's look at um, rural urban migration. But before we look at rural urban migration, let us look at push and pull factors. The definition of this phrase, because this phrase is something that is used widely, not only by geographers, but also by economists and sociologists. Okay, so push and pull factors. So push factors are those reasons why persons would want to leave their original place of residence to reside elsewhere. Those reasons may include, but are not limited to, let's say, employment. Employment opportunities are not available where they are at. So therefore, in seeking employment to better, to be better able to finance themselves, they seek employment in probably another parish, another, you know, geographical location within the same country. For some persons, they might even go overseas. But for now, we're looking at local situation. So employment is one of those factors which influence persons to move from one location to the next, right? And that is a push factor, unemployment, right? Another factor that might push persons out of a particular area is what you call crime and violence. If you're living in an area that the crime and violence continuously increase and it affects family, social life, probably even intimate life, you might find that persons might opt to leave, even if it means to actually put up a little board place somewhere in the rural area where it is peaceful and you can leave your windows and your doors open. Well, that's a political slur. Okay, cool. So those are two factors. Another factor that might influence the pushing of individual from one area to the next is that of education. And I have to use Jamaica because Jamaica is where I'm from, so I am knowledgeable of Jamaica. Okay, so let's say that you live in Jamaica and you live in one of those rural parishes. Let's say that you live in Hanover, right? Or you live in Westmoreland and you have some children, they went to some nice prominent schools and they're about to go to university. Thinking about it, there are no universities in Westmoreland. So therefore, so as to better able to support your child, you decide that you're going to be moving into town. Now, into town, you have more tertiary level training and academic facilities to facilitate the teaching and the learning of your child. So another factor that might push the individual to move from one location to another is what you call the lack of educational opportunities. So I'm kind of running out of time here, so let's just go to two more. Okay, another factor that might influence persons to leave a particular community is the fact that there are little or no social amenities. What are social amenities? Now, social amenities and social infrastructure are two different phrases. Social amenities refers to the availability of light, water, and those things that you would need, right? Right. Social infrastructure, on the other hand, would refer to let's say drainage, transportation, roadway, street lights. These are just but a few social infrastructure that country would need so as to better able to promote the whole idea of economic growth. Okay, and then you have what you call social services. A lot of persons rest their hope on social services for a better life. These social services, for example, are but not limited to the existence of a fire station, police station, hospital, right, school. Now, if you live in a community and these are not there, a lot of persons might say that there's no hope for the young that is coming up. So as a result, a lot of persons might tend to move to areas where these services are available. Okay, so these are a list of, well, I gave you 5 or 6 factors that might push persons outside. Okay, so let's look at some factors, some possible factors, some factors that might pull individuals to reside within a particular area. I'm thinking about it. Let's look. It's practically the opposite of the push factors. So instead of unemployment, there are availability of jobs. So that could be one of the factors that influence persons to move within a particular area. So persons are unable to get jobs in rural areas, so they move to town, and that is one of the reasons why urban spaces are so densely populated, because everyone is looking for employment, and it's easier to get employment because persons are within close vicinity to each other. Thus, they are able to get a one work or two work here or there. Okay, so in rural areas, it might be very expensive to do the same work that they would do in rural areas and in urban areas, because the amount of transportation that they would take to go and to do that work, it practically would erode the earnings that they would have made doing that work. So in rural spaces, it's a little bit difficult. It's a difficult choice to make, whether or not you actually perform certain economic activities there. Okay, so looking at let's say, pull factors, as I said, is like the opposite of push factors. So with low crime and violence, peaceful environment, persons tend to actually migrate to these places. So in certain areas you will find you know, security, you will find peace, tranquility. Practically these persons don't know anything about you know, stealing and breaking and entering or murder, or that. Whenever that do occur, is like a shock to the community. So this can be a factor. Another factor is the availability of educational opportunities. Now let's look in Jamaica. In Kingston alone, I can name at least 5 different universities that exist. Oh, okay. So you're gonna say, name them. Okay, so I name them. University College of the Caribbean, UCC. Then you have University of the West Indies, University of Technology. Then you have the Vocational Training Institute, VTDI, NSTA, Hartshus. And you also have a branch of the West Indies College. Well, that was his name then. It's now Northern Caribbean University. From Mandeville, they have a branch within the urban space of Kingston. So here you see examples. So these are possible factors. Another factor is that you can actually construct your house and have your motor vehicle park right at your doorstep, within the a particular area. Now for some communities, the infrastructure is not there, so you don't have the roads, and you don't have the drains, and you don't have certain things in place. Thus it makes it very difficult for you to, let's say, transfer, you know, move from one area to the next, because you practically don't have any road. Although you might have the money to buy the car, right, or whatever motor vehicle you might choose to buy, but there's just no road, no infrastructure. So as a result, persons tend to move to areas where they can actually feel comfortable living there. Okay, so let's look at the last one, the availability of social amenities. Now social amenities refers to light, water, and telephone. These days with the coronavirus, the whole idea of having internet is a priority. Not having internet puts you at a disadvantage for schooling, communication, and even work. It is the internet that a lot of person uses so as to conduct their daily business, including bank transfer, payments of bills, etc. Thus, if one should be, let's say, residing in rural spaces, what you will find is that they will be unable to conduct business unless they have to be moving from one physical space to an next. Okay, I get it. You're kind of tired of hearing me talk. Alright, so the next video I'll continue sharing some possible implications, problems with, let's say, uh, overpopulation, underpopulation, optimum population. Before I go, let me define them. Alright, so overpopulation refers to not having enough resources to maintain the existing population within a given space. Alright, so let's look at underpopulation. Underpopulation is practically the opposite of overpopulation. Underpopulation is having more resources than individuals or the population that exists within a given space. Optimal population. Optimum population refers to having a balance, having equal amount of resources to accommodate the existing population within a given space. Now, the next video, what I'll be doing, I'll be sharing with you some possible problems that may exist that might affect population structure, or should I say, yeah, population growth, right? Population, economic uh, viability. Thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful day. Catch you next time. Peace.